Hello and welcome to This Month in Travel. I'm your host, Michelle Robson, and I'm editor of Turning Left for Less. Turning Left for Less is a blog about how to travel in luxury for less, using points, miles, and of course, lots of special offers. This month, we're going to be talking about Avios and specifically a change coming today with Finnair. Finnair are going to be introducing Avios as their loyalty currency from today, and this of course means some changes for all Avios earners. Finnair are a great airline. In fact, I just flew back this week on Finnair via Helsinki from a trip to the UAE, and they have some great business class seats which are new, so it's well worth considering using your Avios for Finnair. I'll be talking to Chris from Avios about what these changes mean for you as an Avios collector. So over to Chris to talk about the changes. So welcome to a special interview with Chris from Avios. We are going to be talking today about the changes to the Finnair programme, who are joining Avios very shortly. So welcome, Chris, and how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Avios?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you. Really excited to talk about our new partnership. But probably is helpful if I talk a little bit about Avios and IAG Loyalty, as we call ourselves as a business, and how that interacts, as some of your frequent readers might not be familiar with. So IAG Loyalty is a separate operating company from the airlines within the IAG group. We are the loyalty platform for all of the programs of the IAG carriers. And in addition to that, more recently, we've now developed the currency to be the loyalty currency for other airlines programs, Qatar Airways in 2022 being the first. And then this weekend, the move with Finnair coming live. In terms of myself, so I've got the joy of being the head of strategy at IAG Loyalty. And that's really just an eclectic mix of lots of things. So mainly focused on commercial and corporate B2B strategy rather than pure program. But then I do have some initiatives like this one with Finnair, which clearly have a very direct impact on the customer proposition. Also, I've been able to be involved in co-brand credit card development, air partner agreements more generally. And then also, as you can imagine, in order to operate as a platform, we have some pretty hefty agreements between ourselves and the airlines to make sure that we can sustain a valuable customer proposition.
Well, that's really interesting. I'm sure a lot of people don't really understand quite the relationship of what you guys at Avios do. So the reason we're here today is obviously there's a big change coming this weekend where Finnair will be joining the Avios programme, which is great news for those that collect Avios, particularly with British Airways, because it will open up some new opportunities for them. Can you tell us a bit about what the change is and what the timeline for this is?
Yeah. So I describe it in two phases, which is slightly different for those who are familiar with what we did with the Qatar Privilege Club. So as you've mentioned, this weekend, Finnair Plus will adopt Avios as its loyalty currency. That means all of their customer balances come Monday will be in Avios, and they're actually doing a conversion of 3-to-2 from their current currency. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So they are going through quite a big change. They're not devaluing the proposition. All of the earn and all of the redemption opportunities are being aligned in that. So the customer's buying power is remaining kind of equal across the board, but there is quite a fundamental change within that for them. They're also bringing in a number of other changes to the program itself, spend-based earn and kind of tier recognition being probably the most material one. So that's kind of all packaged together. And it's important to note that that's completely within the Finnair team's prerogative. They manage the customer proposition and their program very separately. You know, we do keep those two things very much at arm's length. So phase one will be for Finnair Plus customers as there are today and others who want to join the program. Phase two is the bit where it gets really exciting from a B Exec Club members' perspective, and that's the kind of ability to link the accounts together. And so that will be in Q2, our Q2, May, June sort of time, just before the early summer. So you'll get the functionality to move your Avios between the accounts seamlessly as you can do today with the Privilege Club.
Well, that sounds great. So most of my readers and viewers and listeners on podcast are generally British Airways Executive Club members, and they collect their Avios through that. Now, up until now, they've been able to use the Avios to redeem on Finnair anyway. Yeah. What difference will this change make to them?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I mean, fundamentally, in the reward seat proposition, you would expect not a lot of change. But what we did see with the Privilege Club was a huge uptick in Executive Club members booking on QR metal and Privilege Club members booking on BA metal. And certainly from an Exec Club perspective, the booking flows didn't change at all. You would always see the BA options and the partner options, including Qatar. There was definitely some slight price enhancements, but a combination of that increased awareness and also a little bit of increased value, mainly because of the minimum seat commitment. So all of the carriers in the Avios program are bringing with it a minimum seat commitment on every flight for reward seats. So a combination of all these things led to this kind of 3 to 5x increase in the number of customers that were cross-fertilizing on the different operating metals. And I think it's fair to say that kind of caught us by surprise for it to be that stark, because that wasn't the core benefit that we thought would happen. We did adopt a kind of pricing mechanism whereby the operating carrier decides how much Avios and how much cash a customer should pay. So we're trying to remove the friction from customers when they're making a reward seat booking from needing to move Avios and go into different booking flows. We want that to be in the program that they want it to be in. So kind of in that reward flight space, we have seen quite a material uptick in terms of demand for those seats, even though not a whole lot has changed. I think the place where certainly the new opportunities have come, which again, customers have been extremely positive about, is where we've been able to create the exchange, and then you get access to all of the home program only, if you like, if I use when your program is aligned with the operating carrier. So from an Executive Club's perspective, the Pay with Avios, the Part Pay with Avios proposition, so you're just buying a commercial fare in the commercial booking flow, and it gives you the option to pay part of that fare in Avios. And so customers from other programs don't have access to that. So in the traditional world of reward seats, there's no reward seat, I can't use my currency on that. We've now opened that up. So we see a lot of that movement into kind of the other account, so into the Privilege Club account in the example, and then being able to use that against a commercial fare to offset. So again, we expect a good amount of that to enable customers to bring those things together. And then we did also have a group of customers that kind of had balances in 2 different accounts, and that they were very much separate. So being able to bring those together, so if you like, unlock, increase your overall buying power. So we've definitely seen customers taking advantage of that to have it in a single program and then be able to use that combined buying power together.
And I think another one would be upgrades. Am I correct that they'll be able to upgrade with Avios, which they can't do currently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's certainly a broader thing for the One World airlines to work on in terms of an upgrade proposition, but in the short term, absolutely. So you'll be able to transfer from your Exec Club into your Finnair Plus program, and then be able to use those Avios to upgrade on your Finnair journey. And
I think this is going to be really useful, because Finnair have some great prices in cash in terms of their long haul flights, but in short haul, because there's no competition currently between Heathrow and Helsinki, the prices can be quite high for the business class. I think people are really going to enjoy the ability to book an economy fare and then use their Avios to upgrade, particularly because Finnair have some long haul aircraft with their new seats on that route once or twice a day. So I think that's a really good opportunity for people that they're going to enjoy.
Yeah, agree.
In terms of the process, you mentioned a bit about that it's going to be May to June when we expect people to be able to do something similar to the Privilege Club, where you can obviously combine your balances and move backwards and forwards. Do you have any more detail on how specifically this will work? Are you envisaging that this is going to be exactly the same as the Privilege Club, or will it be slightly different?
Almost exactly the same. And I'll give the caveat in a second. So for those customers that moved Avios between the Privilege Club and the Exec Club, and maybe have also done between the Iberia Plus program and the Exec Club, this will be replicating the Exec Club and the Qatar experience. So transfers will be instant. Obviously, initially you're linking your accounts. It's really important that the details are correct in both accounts. I guess that's one of the learnings that we're certainly taking. Whilst each program is very much global in its own right, and therefore deals with lots of different kind of names and characteristics in the fields that are collected, we're not necessarily capturing it in a consistent way. So some might collect a middle name, some might not collect a middle name, some might collect date of birth, some might not. Customers may decide to use different email addresses. So ultimately, we've got a process whereby what we're doing is making sure that customer A on the executive club side is still customer A on the Finnair Plus side. So once you manage to link your accounts, which is in itself a fairly seamless process, you're then able to do your transfers back and forth, one-to-one ratio, and instant. So you can see it, within a second or two, you'll see that balance moved. So something we've had really good feedback from customers in the past, and certainly kind of setting the standard of what we see as being the way that we want people to be able to move Avios currency around their programs.
Well, that sounds like good news, because personally I use the Privilege Club quite often to transfer backwards and forwards, and I find that really easy. So it's great that this is going to be something similar. Is it going to show a combined balance like it does on Qatar? Because obviously on British Airways it doesn't, it just shows your original balance. But when you go into your Qatar Privilege account, you can see just the full balance of Avios. Is it going to go that way?
So that's a really cool feature. I love the kind of single virtual balance, we termed it internally. It's not something that we'll have in day one, in the same way we don't have that with the Privilege Club. It's certainly somewhere where we would want to be reaching. For us, there are a number of different challenges around how does it fit with other propositions. So I'm thinking primarily about things like the household account. So a household account is extremely popular with the exec club customers. And we're trying to work out how can we best make that work alongside these other propositions. And I think we also want it to be really sustainable. So if new partners come in, we want that to be able to bring together very seamlessly, rather than saying, okay, well, you've got 2 out of the 5 carriers give you a balance, but the others then don't. So they're the considerations that we're working through, but it's certainly somewhere where we'd like to get to.
That sounds good. So a bit of an inside question here. Is there some ways, which I'm sure will probably get ironed out eventually, where as you basically make all the schemes the same, but are there going to be some ways initially where British Airways executive club members can use Finnair to their advantage, for example, earning different rates of Avios, or perhaps having different timings on buy Avios bonus? I presume Finnair will do something similar to Qatar, where they have regular offers.
Yeah, I'll try not to give too much of a politician's answer. First and foremost, we're listening to customers. We have mechanisms to do that directly, but also through forms of media like yourself, to understand where are the pinch points really occurring. So we're really focused on trying to smooth all of those major ones out. The kind of operating carrier pricing is first and foremost on that list, but there are others that we're seeming to do. But it's very much a balancing act between trying to do that whilst also making sure it's really clear that the programs remain sovereign to the airlines, and they can make the investment decisions for their program as they see fit. So kind of imagining working through the friction and trying to identify those. So I've got no doubt that there will be some, the points purchase and the timing of campaigns is something which would be one of those. Even here, today we've got things like in Bicester Village, you can earn 5 Avios for £4 in the executive club, yet it's 1 Avios to £1 for the Privilege Club. So I think there's definitely opportunity whereby the partnership should get us to be able to be moving to the richest proposition for the customers. So in that case, working together to see if we can improve the proposition for the Privilege Club to bring that up and remove areas of friction. So that's certainly something that's again on that list that we want to be working through, trying to take out those biggest issues for customers first.
Thanks. I think that's a really good point about the earning Avios in different ways, like you say, Bicester Village. And I think for those watching and listening, it's definitely worth, if you're going to make a big purchase, particularly having a look across the different schemes to see which one it's worth crediting to. Because obviously once it all becomes seamless and you can move between the different schemes, it's well worth considering where you put your Avios initially, and also looking at with flights earning rates as well, and special promotions, things like that. And as you mentioned, Chris, definitely if you need that to buy some Avios, it's definitely worth looking at which scheme has what offer, because it does vary at the moment between, for example, Aer Lingus, British Airways and Qatar all have different timings and slightly different bonuses, so it can work to people's advantage. So my final question, this all sounds quite exciting, and I think it's been a great time for people who earn Avios with the introduction of Qatar and now Finnair. Are we expecting more airlines to join Avios or partners in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally be quite confident and say, yes, we think we found a model which delivers real customer value, also real value for loyalty programs more generally, whilst not taking away, not constraining them in a way that some other models that we've seen in the market do. So we've been pretty selective in terms of Qatar and Finnair, both members of joint businesses with the IAG Airlines. That affords us a little bit more privilege in thinking about how things can work. But we very much designed that to be able to be moved across airlines where we don't have that scenario. So 2024, I think, will be a year where we're starting to have more conversations with potential partners. And yeah, I mean, I must admit, I'm moving into a different role in the group back in British Airways in a couple of months' time. So I won't be the one held accountable for it. But the team have got a number of leads whereby I think that we could confidently say going forward, we will have other partners coming into that. And it may not just be airlines that works in the model that we've developed.
Well, that sounds really interesting. Well, thank you, Chris, for giving us your insight today into the changes with Finnair joining Avios this weekend. As a reminder, it's due to switch over on Saturday, which is the day that this should be going out. If anyone listening or reading the blog would like to ask a question about the scheme, please do drop us a message below, and we will try and get some answers from Chris and his team at Avios. And thank you very much, Chris. Great to speak to you.
Yeah, great to speak to you too. Thank you.
So that's all for this month. If there's a topic you'd like me to talk about or someone that you'd like me to interview, please do feel free to drop a comment below and we'll see what we can do. But until next time, happy travels.